Hey everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Poor Decisions, the true crime and wine podcast where we sip, spill, and solve some seriously twisted stories. From infamous murders to small town secrets, we're going to dive into it all. I am your host, Brent, and I'm super excited to get things going and kick things off with you today. Today's case is one of betrayal, secrets, double lives, and a senseless act that left a family shattered. This is the story of Avis Banks. So grab your glass, pour up, and let's dive in. Before we get started with today's case, let's talk wine. Tonight I'm sipping on the brand Menage a Trois, and this one that I'm having is called Dolce, and it's from the Sweet Collection. If you guys watch my intro video, which if you haven't, I definitely suggest you do. I let you guys know I'm all about sweet wines, and we're on a journey here on Poor Decisions to get up out of that. But this is from the Sweet Collection. This is a sweet red blend. I absolutely love this brand. This particular one has an alcohol percentage of 9.5%. So we're going to have a little bit of fun here tonight. Not too much fun, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. And I want to know what you guys are drinking as well. So make sure you let me know below in the comments what wine you guys are sipping on as you are watching this episode with me. Because remember, I love me a good wine recommendation. We are on a journey here together to expand that wine palette, and we're going to do it. We're going to become wine connoisseurs, okay? I'm a self-proclaimed one, but I'm a self-proclaimed sweet wine connoisseur, okay? All right, so without further ado, you guys, let's get into it. This one is a little like sparkling, just a little bit. Okay, so again, this is the case of Avis Banks. Avis Banks was a 27-year-old, beautiful, smart, and kind young woman from Ridgeland, Mississippi. People described her as being warm-hearted with a very giving spirit. She was just a sweet girl, and she had her whole life to look forward to. She had an upcoming wedding because she was just recently proposed to. She was currently pregnant, so she had a baby on the way, and she had just moved into a new home with her fiancé, Keon Pittman. Avis had everything to look forward to. But unfortunately, on November 29th, everything came crashing down. That evening, a little after 5:30 p.m., Avis had returned home from work where she worked as a daycare worker. She stopped at the mailbox to retrieve the mail and proceeded to park in the garage as she always did. But what she didn't know was that someone was waiting for her. At about 8:30 p.m., Keon returned home from basketball practice where he was a coach at a local high school, and he was greeted by a horrible scene. Avis was found murdered in the garage, lying on the ground next to her car with her pants pulled halfway down. She had been shot 4 times and stabbed multiple times in the body, including the neck. In a panic, Keon rushed to neighbors' houses, knocking on the door, looking for anyone to give him some help. No one would answer until he came about one neighbor's house who had actually called the police because she just heard a man running down the street, knocking on multiple neighbors' doors, and she didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until he was at their door and her husband came to the door that they realized that it was their neighbor, Keon. When her husband opened the door, Keon told him to call 911 and that his fiancée had been shot. When officers arrived on the scene, they saw that the house door had been kicked in and the house was ransacked inside. But there was no evidence of an actual robbery occurring. Everything was there. Nothing was misplaced. Of course, things were turned over and flipped upside down because it was ransacked. People were going through things. But when they actually did like an inventory of the property, nothing was actually missing, which didn't make sense for a burglary. But hey, that's what they thought it was. But then for them also, the brutality of the crime to Avis, it felt kind of personal. So the question then became, who would want Avis dead and why? Again, as I told you guys, her friends and family, people close to her, they described her as being so warm-hearted and so sweet that she gravitated to others and they gravitated to her. So those close to her and her loved ones, they could not fathom or imagine who would do such a thing to Avis. Investigators immediately focused on the people that were closest to her, which in majority of homicides, that is what they do. The police start with the people closest to you, and then they work their way out as they can weed them off. And for Avis, it meant they started with her fiance, Keon Pittman. But remember, Keon had an alibi for that night. He was at basketball practice. He was coaching at a local high school, not too far from where they lived, but he was there. And there were other people at practice that were able to vouch for his alibi and confirm that he indeed was at practice. But as investigators dug a little deeper, they uncovered a messy web of lies and secrets. And right at the center of it all was another woman. And we're going to take a sip right now because this is when the BS starts, okay? Like, come on, Keon. You're engaged to be married. Your fiance is pregnant. And there's another woman in the picture. But I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, and you all who know true crime, we know majority of the time in these type of stories, there's always another person, a third party in the mix. So let's take a sip. I had to take two. I'm sorry. So police then learned that Keon was having an affair with a coworker whose name was Carla Hughes. Carla Hughes was a 25-year-old school teacher at the same school that Keon worked. Those who were close to her described her as being quiet, sweet, and very professional at work. But behind closed doors, things were all but calm when it came to Carla. Now, to Keon, Carla was just a fling. But to Carla, when it came to the relationship between her and Keon, she thought it was more than that. Like, she thought that she was the one. What we learned during the trial, like I said, Keon didn't feel that way. So let's watch this next clip and kind of listen to how Keon feels about his relationship with Carla.
Were you going to leave Avis Banks for Carla Hughes, or how did you view the long-term prospects for your relationship with Carla Hughes?
There was no long-term. It was sexual, caught up in the moment. Speaking of myself, there never was a long-term plan with Carla.
It was almost hurtful for other people to hear what he said about Carla Hughes. They were supposed to have a very close relationship, but he talked about her as though she was a whore.
Now, according to others close with them, Carla was obsessed with Keon. She had even told her family that she wanted to marry him, although he was already engaged to be married to someone else, Avis. She believed they had a future together. And of course, that future did not include Avis. But that's not the story that Carla told investigators. She tried to paint the picture that her and Keon were just friends with benefits and nothing more, that she did not want him on that type of level whatsoever. She downplayed the way that she felt about Keon so much. So we're going to take a look at the police interrogation clip from her first interview. But also, disclaimer guys, please bear with me. Again, this case happened in 2006. So when we're watching the video recording of her interrogation, there is this kind of like buzzing, beeping sound going on in the background of the video. Unfortunately, I can't take that out. Based upon the site where I was able to obtain the interrogation video, that's just how it sounded. And I've watched the video on multiple other platforms as well, and that buzzing sound is there as well. So again, this is kind of an old case. The technology then is not what it is now. So bear with it, but just pay attention for what you need to pay attention to.
Did you ever ask him to leave Avis?
No. I actually, I told him, what we have as a friendship is what we have. What y'all have is what y'all have. You know, we never just talked about him leaving. We never talked about him leaving her at all, put it that way. But, you know, I told myself, I would never want you to leave her for me, you know, or for anybody.
Did you ever ask him to leave?
I never asked him to leave her. I never wanted him.
You never asked him?
But this account from Carla is not believed. Also, in 2004, we learned that Carla herself was engaged to be married. But just 3 days before her wedding, unfortunately, her fiancé called it off. He no longer wanted to marry her, and he left her to raise, she was actually pregnant as well at the time. He left her on her own and to raise her son by herself. This alone supports the belief that Carla was jealous of Avis. Like, Avis has everything now that you were so close to having, and that slipped right through your fingers. So it would only make sense that Carla would be jealous and envious of the lifestyle and the things that Avis had. So after investigators found all this out, Carla quickly became their next person of interest. And then the evidence started to stack up against Carla in a crazy way. During the search of her apartment, police found a pair of bloody tennis shoes hidden in Carla's closet. And the tread of these sneakers were actually a match to the same tread of footprints found at the crime scene. So remember when I told you guys at the house the door had been kicked in? When the door was kicked in, there was a shoe print left on the door. And the shoes that they found in her closet, the shoe print matched from the evidence. Again, also I said they were bloody. The DNA tested the blood on the bottom of that shoe, and it did come back positive for Avis's DNA. So that confirms that those tennis shoes were at the scene of the crime when Avis was murdered. Because how else would her blood get on the bottom of your shoes? You were there. And the next piece of evidence that came up, the gun that was used to kill Avis. This gun was actually turned into the police by Carla's cousin. According to him, he said that he gave Carla the gun along with a knife when she came to him asking to borrow it for protection. He did state that when he gave her the gun, it was fully loaded with 5 bullets, and then when she returned it, it was completely empty. And when he asked her about, where are the bullets, she claimed that she went target practicing. And then the knife that he lent her was never returned. If 1 + 1 = 2, then we're going to put 2 and 2 together and get 4. And it's given that, let me not get ahead of myself, okay? We're going to stick to the facts for right now. All right. Carla's phone records and timeline not only contradicted her alibi, but it painted a picture of an intense and obsessive relationship on Carla's end. Now, during the interviews and investigation, despite Carla claiming that she was being framed, investigators just did not believe it. They believed that the night of Avis's murder, that Carla snuck into her home, waited for her, and murdered her in cold blood, believing that somehow this would secure a future for Carla with Keon. I don't know. I'm trying to keep my opinions until the end of the discussion, but like, Carla, come on. I'm just gonna take a sip on it right now, okay? Because baby girl Carla, she's out here. She's not just making bad decisions. She's making poor decisions, okay? She's making fatal ones, okay? Let's take a sip together. Let's keep going. On December 6th of 2006, just 7 days after Avis's brutal murder, Carla Hughes was arrested and charged with 2 counts of capital murder. 1 for Avis and 1 for Avis's unborn child. She was 5 months pregnant when she was murdered. Now, during the trial, Carla tried to blame Keon, suggesting that he had motive and opportunity, because prior to going to basketball practice, that day Keon had actually gone grocery shopping, and then he stopped at Carla's house to store the groceries while he was at practice. And then when practice was over, he returned to Carla's house to pick up those groceries before heading home. And so her defense team tried to paint a picture that she was an innocent victim who was manipulated by Keon. Let's take a look at some things that were said from her defense team during trial, trying to place the blame on Keon.
The defense tried to cast doubt on Keon's alibi. They argued that the school was close enough to home for Keon to slip out, commit the crime, and return to basketball practice before anyone noticed.
Pittman had every opportunity to do this before the time he was at basketball practice. He had every opportunity to do it after basketball practice.
They also claimed that he had ample access to both the shoes and the gun at Carla's house.
He visited her before he went to basketball practice, and he visited her after basketball practice.
Carla's lawyer would try to say that's when he went upstairs, got the gun and the knife, changed into Carla's shoes.
The defense tried to say, well, Mr. Pittman and Miss Shoes were the same size shoes, so maybe he could have worn those shoes, and maybe he could have gone and planted those shoes back in her house.
But the prosecution countered by claiming that the cell phone records appeared to confirm Keon's alibi.
Keon Pittman's cell phone records show that he was where he said he was. He was at the grocery store. He was at the school.
During that time, he had even called Carla and received a call from her. Both calls not only fit his story about dropping by Carla's with his groceries, they also placed Carla near the scene of the murder.
The cell phone records of Carla Hughes place her there in the vicinity, hitting off of a cell tower that's probably located somewhere between a half and a quarter of a mile from the house where the murder occurred.
This was around 5:30, 5:35, up to about 5 minutes after 6 on the day of the murder.
Plus, according to the testimony of the ballistics expert, the gun Carla had borrowed from her cousin was definitely the murder weapon.
The ballistics says that 100% beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond any doubt, that that was the gun used.
And the shoes detectives found in Carla's apartment? On October 9th, an expert from a private crime lab took the stand and testified as to his findings.
The lab did say the print to these shoes is very consistent to the print that we retrieved from Davis's house.
And that wasn't all that the lab found either.
In the crevices of these black shoes was some dark red blood that was identified as that of the victim, Avis Banks.
You guys, but of course, the jury did not buy it. It was just way too much evidence against Carla to support that she was the murderer. Remember, y'all, her cousin was the one who handed in the gun, and then he also testified against her in the court during trial. They also found the bloody shoes with Avis's positive DNA sample on the bottom of them, with the tread mark matching the footprints found on the scene. And she had no alibi. And then also, records indicated because she called Keon that night while he was at practice, her cell phone was pinging from towers that set her in the immediate vicinity of Avis's home during Avis's murder. Well, not during, but around the time of the murder. It's like, come on. Come on, Carla. The jury took just 6 hours to come back with a verdict, and that verdict was guilty. On October 13th, 2009, Carla Hughes was found guilty of all charges.
Please rise. Relative to count 1, the verdict is, we the jury find the defendant, Carla Hughes, guilty of capital murder as charged in count 1 of the indictment. Relative to count 2, the verdict is, we the jury find the defendant, Carla Hughes, guilty of capital murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment.
Soon after, she was sentenced to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
Breaking news in the Carla Hughes trial. As you just heard moments ago, the jury sentenced Hughes to life in prison without parole.
Tuesday, the jury found her guilty on 2 counts of capital murder for killing Avis Banks and her unborn child. Here's the sentence.
All right, as to count 1, the verdict or the sentence is, we the jury find that the defendant should be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. As to count 2, the sentence is, we the jury find the defendant should be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
As of today, Carla Hughes remains incarcerated. She has requested a retrial, but that was denied by a judge after he called her a danger to society.
The woman convicted of murder in a love triangle faced a judge again today. A jury convicted Carla Hughes last year for killing her lover's pregnant fiance. But today, she asked the judge for a new trial. 16 WAPT's Catherine Kite was inside the courtroom.
God, that's unfair.
Avis Banks' family breathed a sigh of relief after the judge denied a motion for a retrial for Carla Hughes. The judge called Hughes dangerous.
She is a danger to society and the flight risk, and for those reasons...
Keon Pittman was never charged in connection to the murder of Avis Banks, though many people to this day still believe that he played a bigger role than we will ever know. Okay, guys, so there you have it. You have all of the facts of the case. Everything that I know, you guys now know about the murder of Avis Banks. So now is the part of our podcast where we want to move into, which I like to call the case discussion. And this part is where I'm going to be picking out things that highlight or any discrepancy from the case that just doesn't sit right so that we can have a discussion about it. And this is where all of you guys' comments, theories, your conspiracies, leave them in the chat because I really want to know what you guys think. Like, shed some light on it. Let's get into it. So for today's discussion, I want to highlight also that what we're going to discuss at this part is only my opinion. Everything we discussed prior to now has been straight facts about the case. But during the case discussion, this is all my opinion. Today's question for the discussion is going to be, was two of them. Was Keon Pittman involved any way of the murder of Avis Banks? And the other question to that is, if he wasn't physically involved, was he aware at all of what Carla planned to do? These are the two questions that I feel like a lot of people struggle with after being aware of this case. People close to them, people who don't know them, people like you and I who are just hearing the case and then it's like, wow. It's so hard to say. Was he physically involved? In my opinion, I don't feel that, based upon the evidence that came out, he had an alibi. Students confirmed that yes, my coach was there during practice. And then also, one of the kids that he was coaching at practice, his mother was in attendance at practice. And apparently, Keon was talking to her too. The whole time during practice, she's in the gym, he's in the gym, but they're texting each other, flirting the whole time. And apparently, she was married. And the investigators asked him, like, well, why are you texting her? Why aren't you just sitting next to her talking? He's like, well, her son was there, and we just didn't want to be completely out there with it. Like, sir, I hate to place blame on people because Carla did this. This is no one's fault but Carla's. However, and they even asked him during trial, did he feel responsible? And he did say yes. And I would agree with that because had you been faithful, had you stuck to this relationship and not been trying to venture out, she would have never been in a situation like this. And you clearly stepped out with the wrong one and you gave her the wrong impression because for some reason Carla really felt that if she got Avis out the way, that then she could step in and that the two of them could just live happily ever after together. And guys, I don't understand that, and I want to talk to all of you guys and put you in a little something. When you do crime, especially murder, homicide, you take a life so that you can be with someone. Pause there. Any crime that you do, from my years of being stuck on watching true crime, they're going to find you. Whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, they're going to find you. I have watched crimes where someone did something when they were 20 years old And fast forward, they're 86 years old, sitting out front of their new house, sitting on the porch in a rocking chair, and the police come to them. Hey, are you such and such? You're wanted for a crime, for a murder that happened 60 years ago. You were able to be free and elude people for that many times, but it will catch up to you. So I speak that because it's like, Carla, you thought if you got Avis out the way, you could then be with him. But now, yes, Avis does not have him because unfortunately you murdered her. But you were caught. You were caught like the week after they already suspected you of being the suspect. And now you're in jail. So you don't have him either. And according to accounts, as of today, Keon has moved to a completely different state. He has been remarried and has a whole family. So it's like, who really won in this scenario? Well, no one won because it wasn't a prize anyway at the end of the day. Just giving my personal opinion, any man that's willing to step out on his life like that when he has a fiance and she's pregnant, me personally, I would not want any parts of that. No, thank you. So I'm definitely not going through the extent to try to murder you or get you out of here so I can be with your man. I don't want your man because look at what your man is willing to do to you. Like they say, how do you know this person won't do it to you? And they probably will because, again, as we now heard, Carla Hughes was not the only person that Keon Pittman was having extra dealings with on the side. You were just one of a few. And unfortunately, now you lost your life for that as well because you're doing 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. And she's trying to get retrials and they're denying them. They're like, no, like you're going to sit in this jail for the rest of your life and you're going to do your time. And then what really sucks about it too, like I stated, she has a son of her own that when she was previously engaged, that son's father did not want to marry her. He left her and left her to be a single mother. So now that child doesn't have you or his dad. And her son actually is being raised by her mother, which is the son's grandmother. So every party loses in a situation like this. Avis lost because she lost her life. Avis's family lost because they lost her. Keon lost because he lost all aspects of it. He lost his fiance, his baby that was currently being burned in the stomach. He lost his mistress. Carla, you lost your life because now you're just in jail. You lost your son. Your son lost his mom. Like, everybody loses in a situation like this. So, to my ladies out there, if you're in a situation like this and you're liking or dating someone or having an affair with someone who's taken, just exit the stage left, okay? Please do not think in your mind for one time like, oh, let me off this person and then I can get in there. If that's what you have to do to get in there, baby, you don't want to be in there. Trust me, run, please, okay? So back to the forefront of the discussion. Whether or not Keon was physically involved, because he has such a solid alibi, I do not believe that he was involved at all in the actual committing of this crime. I don't believe in the physical. He was there, that he was the, as Carla's defense team tried to say, that he was the one who did it and that he had opportunity to come drop groceries off at Carla's, go upstairs to her room and grab the shoes, put them on, go home, kill Avis, and then go to basketball practice, and then get out of practice, come back to Carla's, pick up groceries, put the shoes back in her closet, and then go back home and act like he knew nothing. I don't believe in that account. Me personally, again, this is just my complete opinion. I do not believe that he was involved in the actual crime. Now, the second question that I have in this discussion is whether or not he was aware of what Carla planned to do. And this is something that I do struggle back and forth in myself. Because number one, we can all assume we assume and think we think. None of us will ever know because we are not Keon and we are not Carla. And those two are the only two who know whether or not he was aware. It's hard. On one aspect, I feel like she wanted to be with you. She was appealing to you. Of course you knew. She had to tell you. But on the other end, I think about if I was Carla, would I tell him? I would not. Because I think about myself and I'm like, if someone came and told me that, hey, I know you are in a relationship, you have a person, I really want to be with you. So my plan is I'm gonna get them out of the way and then I can be with you. I would not want to be with you. Whether I'm sneaking around or not, if you come and tell me that that is the length that you're going to be with me, I do not want to be with you. Because then I become afraid that I gotta grab the wine. I become afraid that this is fun for right now while we're not supposed to be doing this. But if this becomes a regular thing, and then let's say I decide that I don't really like you like I thought I did, and I don't want to be with you anymore, I try to leave you. Now you might try to get rid of me. So it's a very touchy situation. I don't know. I'm like, did he know? Did he not know? We will never know. The world will never know. Literally only they two will know. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that he knew? Or do you guys think that he was completely unaware and in the blue? I struggle with myself. And even as I'm giving you guys my opinion right now, I'm trying to think about it. Like, I can't help but think about myself. If I was Keon and my Carla came to me and told me that they were going to get rid of my Avis to be with me, I would tell Carla, like, no, do not do that. Please don't. Because you guys also heard his own account. He did not even think of him and Carla's relationship like that. They were not long-term. There was no long-term plan for him and Carla. He wanted to be with Avis. He was just having some fun with Carla on the side. And then whoever else he was having fun with, because we know she wasn't the only one. So I kind of feel like she didn't tell him, because why would I tell him that? I don't know. Why would you tell him that? Would I tell somebody? I would never do such a thing, number one. But like, I struggle in this, guys. You guys gotta let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that he was a part of this at all? Did he help plan it? You know, was he the one that switched the shoes in the closet and he did the murder and not Carla? And if he didn't, like, was he aware? Did he know? It's so hard to think about. I'm just drifting off in my mind trying to think about it. I think sometimes you really, like they say, you never know what you're dealing with, and you never really know people until you really know them. So did he know that Carla was capable of doing such a thing? I would hope not, because if you knew that, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I can't think too much about it because the root for me is still going to come back to I don't know. So this is what I want to know from you guys. What do you guys think to our discussion, our case discussion questions? Again, physically, was Keon involved in the murder of his fiancée, Avis Banks? And two, if he was not actually involved in it, do you think that he was aware at all of what Carla Hughes planned to do to Avis? Please leave your comments, your theories, and all of that in the chat below. Also, subscribe to this channel, okay? And turn on your post notifications so you do not miss a beat, okay? We are dropping true crime stories here on Poor Decisions every single Thursday. Thursdays are going to be our True Crime Thursdays. We're going to hashtag that, hashtag True Crime Thursdays. So make sure you guys are back next Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. again. And also follow us on Instagram at It's Poor Decisions. It has been an absolute pleasure to kick off this very first episode. And I really hope to see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Cheers to you. And until next time, make good choices and not poor decisions.